Hello and welcome to Trekkie and Beyond. I'm Monica.
And I'm Andrea. And guys, guess what? We are finally on season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. And this is episode 1, and it's called That Hope Is You. Episode 1 of season 3 blew it out of the water because now we have Burnham, who is 930 years into the future. She doesn't know what Discovery is. She doesn't really know where she is when it comes to relevance of like everyone else in Starfleet. And she doesn't really know what to do next. So I have to say, this episode is bringing me back to Star Trek that I love. So initial reactions, Monica, what did you think?
I totally agree with the computer. It is a reboot complete. I felt like this episode for the new series kind of helped to reboot and give a breath of fresh air with a new environment. I love away missions. And so it's starting out that way. I'm really excited. And I love the new characters. I love the references to Rocket Girl because I feel like that's female empowerment. And I'm a true believer again in it. So yes, I'm excited. What about you?
So excited. I loved every second of this episode. I think I said this in the first episode of season 2 that I think is getting me back to what I thought what Star Trek was with like random different episodes. The way this episode went, I just don't know what the arc of the series could be. So we are in a mystery, but it's not it didn't seem like the beginning of a season-long mystery. So I'm very, very happy with episode 1. This episode, just to give you guys a little recap of what's going on, we meet a new character and we see the sort of repetitiveness of this man who is waking up every morning and he is going to sit at a desk and he is just staring at like a hologram of the universe. And every day he wakes up, and as he's doing this, we're seeing a different type of technology that we never saw before. It's almost like matter is creating itself from nothing. Not that it was like officially, the first time I saw it, I thought it was, just sort of cloaked, but it didn't really make sense because you're on a ship. So why is your desk cloaking itself from you? We get to see that this man is he has something with Starfleet, but he doesn't have the badge from Starfleet. But we see him just sort of every day waking up and with not really a smile, but with like a sense of this is my job and I'm proud to do it, just like looking for the universe. And so it makes me wonder, is he looking for Michael? Like, did someone spill the beans and it's his job to literally just look and wait for Discovery to come? And then we meet another character. They don't tell. Well, we do find out his name in the very beginning. This gentleman named Book, and he's on a ship, and there's another ship following him that we have not seen yet in the Star Trek universe. Very advanced, flying through debris. He's escaping, and they're using technology that we have not seen before. So I'm really, really happy with just like the first 5 minutes of this episode, seeing we are in a whole new universe.
Right. I also love the fact that it just started with action. Like there was science because there was the programmable, I don't know, the matter that was forming. And I wasn't quite sure if those were like nanobots or what.
Yeah.
For the bed. So it led me into some mystery there. And then also the action scenes for the fighting for the cargo. So yes, it pulled me in right away.
It's amazing. And so then we see that Michael sort of shoots out of a wormhole, and the guy Book is like, no. She crashes into Book, and we see her, she's about to fall onto the planet. She needs to like reinstate herself. And then we see Michael, after she reboots her her suit, we see a Michael who is not sure what's going on, but is like still true to herself. Michael, like, oh crap, what is going on? Oh no, the wormhole is closing. Okay, I have all of my stuff. Okay, you go back, send that signal to Spock, and then like we'll figure it out from there. I was very happy with the initial version that we saw of her. She was panicking, but it's like she learned from all her other times. She panicked and still got stuff done.
Right.
So sorry, go ahead.
And she was injured because she looked sore when she got up, which shows like the human quality of it, or not just the human quality, but the human trait of what she just went through. And she was forced down into that planet into like sand or ash, whatever she landed on, but with such great force that it wasn't easy. She was underneath, she had to dig her way out, literally. So it just wasn't an easy landing. And I think that helps to dismiss all of this Mary Sue kind of stuff. Like this isn't an easy journey. She is getting hurt several times along the way in this episode.
Well, I don't want to skip too far ahead, but this episode gives us a different side of Michael where I'm like, okay, girl, me and you can be best friends now. I like this. We even see that when she finally makes her way to the ship that she crashed into, and he's fighting her. He's like, you're fighting me. She's like, I'm not fighting you. You're fighting me. Hold on. Let's talk. Let's figure this out. I don't know. It may just be me, but the air on Michael, it's like she's a lot lighter in this episode. Like, even though she's heavily weighed by the fact that she can't get in touch with Discovery, she's unsure of exactly how she landed, where she is. She doesn't know anything that's going on in this new world this far in the future. And still, she doesn't seem as heavy as she did in the first 2 seasons. Like, her acting is lighter in these 2 seasons, I feel like.
I agree with you. And I think it also could be just joy in knowing that she completed the ultimate mission.
Yes.
To know that she saved, because the moment she found out that there was life out there, she was so excited that she solved the problem. So the huge weight of the universe that was on her shoulders has been lifted, because what if she projected out into the future and there was no life, right? So you did all that for nothing. So,
and like, you already sent the suit back, and like, oh no. And I'm very interested to know, well, I mean, granted, let's change history, like, time is not like a relative thing. I'm very actually interested that the fact that she didn't mention her mom once, that she was going to look for her mom, see if she was alive, a version of her was alive in this future, and she didn't, or mention anything about it. So I was very interested about that. When Michael teams up with Book, she comes into contact with like the first type of new technology, the console, how it sort of like how it just moves up to your hand, and she starts to learn from Book a lot of the history that she missed about the fact that Starfleet doesn't exist anymore. At one point, all the dilithium crystals exploded. And at first when he said it, I just thought, oh, in the mine, whatever. But like, no, all the, like, wherever they were exploded. And so thousands of people died in Starfleet. So that's like, some people, and I got some people still try and be Starfleet, but no one's official, because it's been, he said the burn happened 120 years before he was born. So these are people who are generations removed from the big burn, still taking up their own little, well, we're not official Starfleet people, but we need to try and be Starfleet if we can. And I thought that was a very interesting anecdote, that people who are literally at least 3 or 4 generations removed from their being Starfleet, that means like there's no one in your immediate family who you can talk to who was Starfleet, still trying to take up the mantle, which I think is pretty interesting.
I also think that the part of the episode in which they talked about the lithium crystals no longer, I guess, in existence, or very limited quantity, like that shows that as a natural resource, that if you rely on just that one thing, it's no longer available, then what's your plan B? And it doesn't seem like Starfleet had an option, had a plan B available to them, and they never pursued more spore drives to be able to travel.
And it also shows that the Queen never shared her technology then.
Right.
She had her own technology. Maybe in the future episodes, we see that maybe she did tell Tilly, and Tilly knows how to possibly, well, first we got to find Tilly because we don't know where she is. But, oh, okay, a little note for future. Maybe that might come back. Okay, I see what they're doing. Book ends up taking Michael to this like bazaar, or a place where you can get jobs, and like the Orions and the Andorians are working together, and like they control it. And it's basically like a bounty hunters. It's like their version of Amazon. Like, hey, you want to buy something? Okay, we'll deliver it. Oh, we need this. You'll take it up. We'll pay you. Here's enough to get you there and back. So you cannot screw us over. And like, here's enough dilithium crystal to get you there, get you back. And then we'll give you something else. And this is why I wasn't sure about Book, because he betrays our girl. He betrays her and like actually walks her into the vault when she was like, because he's like, I can't trust you. It's one thing about Book, which is very interesting, which he kept asking her questions and then saying, no, don't answer. I don't want to know. And then he would ask her something else. Like, wait, no, don't answer. I don't want to know. And then he would ask her something else and then repeat the process. I'm like, Book, pick a lane and stay in it, please.
Well, to me, I think he's guarded. And at first, I thought he was like a pirate, right? And that he was, I don't know, there was something he was transporting that this other jet was also interested in. And so now he could be an opportunist. Like, oh, here's this naive person, doesn't even understand that Starfleet and the Federation does not exist. And she has these artifacts, these things that he could sell to show her the communication hub in exchange for, like, he could get the lithium crystals, which is much more powerful, and complete his piracy. That's what I was at first thinking. At any means possible. Like, it seemed like he was a slickster.
Yes.
Yeah.
I found that part, this next part of the episode, probably the funniest. Because when she's trapped, another Andorian and an Orion, like, they're interrogating her, and they spray this like mist on her. She first tries to explain that she was like lied to and trapped, and it's like, no one's that dumb or no one's that naive. And this just like this truth spray or this mist that's like supposed to make her tell the truth, and she goes crazy, and I was laughing that entire scene. And I love the fact that she was like, I have a friend who you cannot give this to, like talking about Tilly, like saying Tilly could never be a part of this, like Tilly can never be exposed to this. And then we see that she and Book somehow get like surrounded again, and then even though this dude has strictly just like betrayed her, really, they work together to escape, and she's still in awe of the fact that there's personal transporters, that you don't need to be beamed up to a ship, like you have your own transport. And so this goes back to what you said, I think, either last episode, the episode before last, where her technology, Discovery's technology, is highly out of date. Like, it is, he was laughing at her phaser.
Right.
And so it's the way the weapons they use now like conform to your hands, and like you were just shooting them like bam, 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 bam. Unlike the other episodes where it felt like they already knew the answers and we were learning them, I felt like we're learning along with her, like what's going on. And it just it brought an air of, I'm so invested in this season.
Right. Even the fact that their identification was on the sleeve of the jacket. Was like encoded there, and so she didn't have identification to get in there. And Book told her, like, try not to stick out and try not to give the last word. And she was just being Michael, though, sometimes.
But she was like being Michael light, though.
Yeah.
Like there's like the normal Michael that we know that had all of this like family pressure. And maybe that's why she seems so light, is because like she knows at this point, even though it's only been a couple seconds for her, all of the, like you said, all the weight that she had from trying to be whoever she was is gone, because at this point, no one knows who she is. She can be whoever she wants to be. I will say, I do like Hi Michael. I like her a lot. It's a very fun Michael. She was telling the truth, but she told the truth in such a way that was like, I don't care that you told someone my plan. Give me a hug, girl. Bring it in.
So that scene reminded me of when Tilly was high in season 1.
Pronouns.
When Tilly was high. So it reminded me of that. But then I kept thinking, I really like it when Michael is like a fish out of water. When she's like uncomfortable learning something new. This is a really cool Michael, but
yeah, even when she was emotional about learning what happened to Starfleet, it was a different Michael. It wasn't like bring it down Michael, even though she's learning that everything that she worked for, the thing that she loved the most no longer exists, which makes me wonder, what are they going to do this season? Like, are they going to try and go back to the past and stop the burn? Like, so many options of what they could possibly do this season. I'm so confused. This is why I need to binge this entire season. And people, it's going to be very hard for me not to. All these little, with the way this new world is set up, we haven't really seen a sense of government, because even what's happening at this Orion and the Andorian place, they're not in charge. They're just only in charge of that cargo thing. We haven't seen, we hear that the Gorns might be in charge or something like that, or GRONs, I think they're called. But we haven't really seen a sense of presence like Starfleet had in the past. So I'm really wondering who's in charge to say. Is no one in charge?
I feel like this is like the Wild Wild West, a new frontier. Mm-hmm. And without the Federation, you're absolutely right. Who is in charge? Because we get later on in this episode when we find out about the package that he's moving, and like there's ethical dilemmas, right? And No, doesn't seem like they have a police force or like enforcement of policies.
So let's go ahead and jump into everything else in this episode that made me love Book, even though I really wanted to hate him because I didn't trust him because he turned on Michael. And you don't trust people who betray you. So
he didn't really know her like that yet.
Yeah, but like she did everything that he asked. Like basically, like it was obvious that Michael had no clue what was going on, like at all. Like no one could act that much. It was very obvious that she did not know what was going on, and he's still like, it would have been better if he had just left her there and then went back to his ship. But like instead, he went out of his way to like get her arrested. So I was like, nah, Book.
Well, because he needs the rest of those artifacts to get the biggest lithium crystal possible for his package, for his courier duty.
And that all could have happened without getting her arrested.
But they bond and they get out of there together.
Sure.
And he helps heal her wound. Okay,
so when they're escaping in the whole little firefight, they get out and like land at some water, or near some water. And then we learn something new about Book, that he's able to mind control, or he can connect mentally to to things around him. And so like in his face, his forehead got red, and like I think part of his nose the top of his nose got red, and like this like water kelp thingy came out, and like he was able to heal Michael, which still is not points in my book, because any good person should try and help someone.
Tough crap.
Yes, I'm protective of her. Even though I'm very critical of her, I'm protective of her. And then they get back to the ship, and like the Orions and Cosmo, who he has stole from, and the Andorians, they're there, and they're like thugs, and they're trying to like get his cargo, which we find out is a worm that they want to eat, and it's best fresh. And so this is the one thing where I'm like, Michael, you don't listen, because the guy told her, close your eyes. And what does she do? She looks. And it's like, she legit just told you to close your eyes, Michael. And this huge worm comes out and like eats people. Eats the Andorian, I think.
Yep.
Eats someone else. And then the rest of the thugs sort of escape. And then it comes over to Michael. And again, he told you to close your eyes, Michael. And we see that Michael gets eaten. Like for a split second. Not even split. It was like a minute or two. She was in that stomach for at least like 30 seconds. 30 seconds to a minute before she gets spat out. And I'm like, excuse me, don't touch her. You don't touch him. You're dirty. Go in the water and wash that off. You don't know, that's stomach acid, honey, from an alien worm. Go wash that off. And then we find out a little bit about Book as they're flying to the place.
But wait, she said that I thought it was a funny moment. She was like, this is not where I thought this was going. I didn't expect it.
I didn't expect my day to go this way.
Go like this.
And we have to remember that while it was like 6 months for us, for me and you about 2 weeks because we're binging this, for her, it's been maybe 2 hours because we don't really know how long the journey in the wormhole is. So it could be instantaneous for her. And she left a battlefield and is like all of this. First of all, don't you need sleep? Because that should have been a very, very long day. But yeah, she did say that this is not how I thought my day was gonna go. And that made me think, like, yeah, she's been up for like 48 hours, maybe even more. Come on now, you need some sleep. Maybe that's why you're acting so crazy and lightheaded, because you need some sleep, Michael.
Well, also when she first arrived and landed into like the black sand, she looked all sore and like wound, like she was moving gingerly. And now all of a sudden she's able to fight, she's able to run and sprint and swim. So I guess she got her endorphins and energy back. I'm glad to get out of that. But yeah, she's had a crazy journey from 930 years ago to this in a split moment.
Mm-hmm. And so then we find out some stuff about Book. We found out that his family, Michael mentions that the fact, or Book mentions that when Starfleet went down, there was no one there left to enforce the Endangered Species Act. So that's why people are hunting these things. And Book admits that his family's they're poachers, and they add to the endangered species list basically. And he's like, and I'm different. He's like, every so often, one of us is born that makes to balance out the scales. I'm like, dude, you're just rebelling against your parents. I mean, it's good, but you're rebelling against your parents. Like, go ahead. I know, dead inside, people, dead inside.
Okay, so I like him a lot between his fluffy cat Grunge and his like, I don't know, his shuttle, his like the interior looks like really cool with like the cross between wood and like all of the like the new furnishing. So I really like him, and I hope you like him too. You get to like him. But he opened up a lot that he didn't have to say to Michael. And I also feel, going back to like a few episodes ago with Harry Mudd and stuff like that, at least he's helping to protect the environment. He was risking his life for this endangered trace worm. So he didn't have to go through all of this, but he chose to, between fighting off the other courier that was interested in this, as you mentioned, to eat this animal, and then also to take the creature back for mating season. And that was his sense of urgency. That's the real reason why he needed the lithium. And he needed to do this quickly. Otherwise, I guess he wasn't going to be able to help the species increase.
Yeah, those trance worms are really, they wanted to get frisky. He was helping them get frisky.
And he kind of glanced over at Michael when he mentioned the mating season. So
no, we're not gonna go there with Michael. Michael, you be a good girl. You just met him. Michael. You just lost Ash. You met him when you with Ash. You just lost him. And I just lost Spock. Okay.
They're on a ship together, just the two of them.
Okay, so after we see them on this planet, with other people who are like Book, who basically are like helping keep this species alive, she still remembers like she needs to figure out how she's going to find her ship and her crew. And so Book takes her to a he said it's like a landing place for couriers, but there's used to be an old Starfleet hub, and there's that guy from the opening scene who did the same thing every day. And I'll admit, this is the part that made me a little teary-eyed when I watched it, because for Michael, it was seeing that there's still some part of Starfleet alive, even though no one is there officially Starfleet because no one's commissioned. Which I guess they could probably commission themselves, because if you're restarting it, but neither here nor there. We're not gonna go into the whole stuff. And we see that the gentleman who is in awe of meeting someone who's official Starfleet, because he saw the badge and he was just very like, I can't believe I'm meeting someone. And they have this sort of like, she tells him that she's from the past, 930 years in the past, and he's still like, oh my gosh, like I feel like if he could have, he would have asked for her autograph. I really feel like he was going to ask for her autograph. And then Michael does something very, I think, very beautiful. She commissions him officially as a chief communications officer. And I thought that was really sweet, because he's like, for 40 years, or at least 30 years, 40 years that he's been doing that job of looking and being like the hub. And Michael finds out that one, he's only able to see 30 sectors of space. That their long range sensors are down, and that while somewhere else there could be other sensors set up, but they are only limited. And we see that there are 2 Starfleet ships within his sector. So we at least know there's 2 unofficial Starfleet vessels out there trying to maintain some sort of order, which again, why not just commission yourselves? Like if this, but neither here nor there. So she commissions him. And then he had kept this flag that was in the box that we saw on the screen, that he's like, only a commissioned officer could hang it. He's like, I've been waiting for it to hang. And they hang it up, and I got a little teary-eyed. I was like, oh, look at you caring so much. Because again, if it's over 120 years before Book was born, and we don't really know how old Book is, let's say he's 30, that's 150 years ago. Who in that guy's life was the Starfleet officer that he remembers? Unless like that person was really old and he met them right before they died, you know?
Right. Well, he mentioned that he's the 3rd generation. So it sounds as though it's just passed down from his grandfather to his father down to him to do this. It just seems like it's lonely.
Yes.
Being there and checking and waiting every day for a signal. Like you have one job, you're waiting for it. And like, finally he's like, yes, someone. Okay, what do we do next? So he's on board. He's excited. This is what I'm waiting for.
And we find that Michael has to come to the terms with the fact that even though her crew was right behind her in the wormhole, they could either arrive now, tomorrow, 10 days from now, or 1,000 years in the future. So now Michael has to, you hit the rock and a hard place. Like, do you move on and wait for, or do you just wait for your crew to come back? Because who's to say they may not come, that they'll come back in your lifetime? Right. They could come back 50 years from now and you could be an old woman. Or they could come back in 10 days. So it's that interesting part of, what do you do now, Michael? What are you going to do? Are you going to spend your days looking for them? Maybe they're already here, but they, like, how do you make the decision of how do you live your life? Do you live your life waiting like this gentleman has done for 30 years? Or do you try and make something of your life because you know they would want you to live and not just wait for them? So what do you do? What would you do?
I would wait for a while and then move on. The nice thing is she has him. And he can keep an eye out while she also gets to know what's going on in the future. Because Discovery is going to be a fish out of water. Yeah. So how does she protect them? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, do you go to all the other substations and like say, hey, I need you to, or does she try to start her own Starfleet so they come back to a semblance of what they had? Because right now she's the highest ranked officer, because she's the only one who's officially ranked and officially commissioned. So does she find the other Starfleets and tell them who she is and then commission all those people and like try and rebuild a Starfleet so whenever Discovery does come back, they can come back to a Starfleet? Or does she not do that? Does she just hang with Book? Because it's so many options that are open to her. Like, she can go to all the other sectors and try and pick up the long range signals and start fixing that. Like, what do you?
Right. But she needs resources to do that, and maybe that's not where Book wants to go.
Yeah, but it's not about him. She doesn't need him.
How she's going to travel without him?
if she gets to start, if they bring a Starfleet ship to her, because the guy did say that there was 2 Starfleet ships. So if her goal is Starfleet is putting them up, she could travel on those ships, and then they could take her.
Right. I feel like if Starfleet was interested in that location, then they would have at least given this guy a title and a badge. Like it seems like he's in an outpost and they are not really focused on it. Seems like the Federation, there's not many people there, and it's or resources available to them. And maybe they don't have the Lithium crystals.
But that's the thing. He was saying that there's no Starfleet isn't a real thing anymore.
Right.
So she's the only person who's actually in Starfleet. Everyone else wants to be a part of Starfleet. So with her guidance, she could make them into Starfleet. That's what I'm saying. Because they don't have the knowledge. They're going off of my father was a part of it, your father was a part of it. But she was raised in Starfleet. She has all the history. She knows Starfleet, not hearsay from family members of, oh, my father did this, so I'm doing this. She knows how the long range sensors would have worked. The guy said they haven't been working in over 30 years. But like she is a wealth of knowledge to them that while technology wise, no, she's behind on them, but she commissioned him as the chief's communication officer. So I'm saying like she could go to the other Starfleet ships and actually commission them to Starfleet in quotations, because none of them are commissioned. Because otherwise, I feel like those 2 ships would have commissioned that guy or whoever was on that one. So I would say they're not real Starfleet. They're playing Starfleet. That's how the guy made it seem. Because he's doing this because his father did it, but he didn't have a badge and he wasn't commissioned. And he's like, I've been waiting for a commissioned officer. And so why did no one else in those ships that in the sector that he can see come and hang it? Are none of them commissioned? Because the way Booker explained it with Starfleet is just those. It's like how those people in the rural areas still fight battles that are already done. Like they're reenacting Starfleet, but they're not actually Starfleet. So that's what I'm saying. Like if her heart is into rebuilding Starfleet, I think that's what she should make a Starfleet for Discovery to come back to.
I think in order to do that, she needs to know the lay of the land, like not literal land, but like what this universe is like right now.
And she can learn that from them. So I'm saying book is not essential for that. So
I think that takes time, and the way I think the Starfleet that she has knowledge of is completely different than what's going on right now, and I think she could get eaten alive by all of these other renegades and rogue and pirates out of Wazoo. And I think the technology is beyond her.
Technology is definitely beyond her. But Booker has his own mission. His mission isn't Starfleet. Right. And so if that's what I'm saying, like his mission doesn't align with her. So unless she's going to give up Starfleet, because when the Discovery comes back, are they just going to no longer be a part of Starfleet? They're just going to live in the future? Because in my mind, it doesn't make sense to align herself with him if she still wants there to be a Starfleet or a semblance of Starfleet, because that's not what his mission is.
Right. If I were her, I would try to find a time crystal. I would try to find the Klingons to find a time crystal or find some ancestors of Poe. She needs some alliances right now, and although Book is with her, I'm not sure how. Like, I think she needs more alliances, and she needs, just a lot more resources and get up to speed with everything that's going on. The one thing I know for sure is that the season finale has the same title as this episode. It's just part 2. So at some point in time, they're going to circle back around, and we're going to get some closure. So we're not going to be left empty-handed. I'm buckling up and looking forward to enjoying this ride and this journey with Michael, Book, and whoever else they bring along the way. Hopefully we can find discover the location of Discovery.
Discover Discovery with us.
Right?
Okay, so any final thoughts of this episode?
I like the balance and the differences. I feel like it's kind of opposite attracts between Book and Michael. Michael is not as, or she wasn't as in touch with her feelings, and Book seems to be much more of a like go by your gut kind of guy, and like he has telepathy, and he's an activist of sort and a healer. So I hope they stay together. I
don't need her thinking about a relationship right now. She needs to figure out what's going on. She can be strictly dickly later. She needs to figure out what's going on right now. Not worried about some guy.
It's mating season.
It's not mating season for her. So my final thoughts, I am looking forward to seeing what this season, what type of Star Trek are we going to get? Are we going to get a lighter Star Trek that's remnants of past seasons of like other versions where heavy things happen in each episode, but overall it's a very enjoyable season? Or are we going to get a whole nother story arc where every single episode, except for season 1, where we had that one episode by Harry Mother, pissed me off and I'm still going to talk about it, but where like every episode connects to the story? Or are we going to get multiple small episodes where there may be like an underlining theme, but every episode is not contingent on the episode before, if that makes sense? Where there'll be like mini storylines in every episode, but there's still the overarching theme of we need to figure out what we're going to do. There's so many things they can do, and it's like a blank slate for them, and I'm so excited. So guys, thank you for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed episode 1 as much as we did. So as always, I'm Andrea.
And I'm Monica.
And live long and prosper.